All right, real excited to talk to my next guest on the Sports Card Shop guest line. He's started a company. It's not new now, but it's become I'm going to talk to him about, it, but it's become a verb, and it's always a good thing when your company becomes a verb. But he's also a collector as well. We're gonna dive into that as well. So happy to have Clint Anderson from Zion Cases. Welcome.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate it, John.
All right. So let's start off with like kind of where it all began for you as far as your entrance into the hobby as a collector.
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of people my age, in my younger 40s, grew up in this, the late 80s to early 90s era where there was a lot of collecting, and I'm, you know, just south of Chicago, so Michael Jordan was obviously very very big at that time, which I think spawned some of it for me just in that area, just because it was easy, right? You wanted to collect somebody or be involved in some sort of sports, aspect of things, and collecting sports cards. And a baseball guy myself, it just made a ton of sense to collect some of those guys, Ryan Sandberg and stuff like that. A lot of Chicago teams when I first started. And then just like most people, right, everything kind of stops in the 90s for the most part as you get a little older and other things are going on, and then the hobby takes a little bit of a break for a little bit as well. Um, I happen to be working at my previous employer that I worked for about 17 years. Was walking through a Walmart for them as I was going in there to check one of the sets that we were doing there, and seen baseball cards sitting on the shelf. And so that interest me. I didn't know that there was baseball cards still out there in the world. I just, I hadn't thought about them since I was a kid. So went over there, grabbed a box, and it kind of started from there. That was in 2012, 2013. Ended up getting in touch with a distributor locally in like 2014, and became a breaker on Facebook for a long time. I say long time, it's 3 or 4 years, and just had a nice little tight knit group of about 400, 500 people. A lot of guys I knew in the group, a lot of networking of just people that I met at shows, things like that. And yeah, that was like the start of it, getting back into the industry. Essentially, I didn't think it would get to this point, that's for sure, but it definitely was a fun moment to see sports cards again and get that feel, from when I was a kid as well. So
Yeah, no doubt. That's the beauty of the hobby too, Clint. Right? If you have to take a break or a pause or life happens,
yeah.
it is there waiting for you. I always tell people, sometimes I'll get someone will message me or email me like sort of burnt out or I'm kind of frustrated, and I'm like, take a pause. A pause might be like a weekend away or a month or longer. That's up to the individual. And sometimes that's not the worst thing in the world because the nice thing is it can recharge your batteries and then you come back and sometimes you don't appreciate something till you kind of you miss it a little bit. And
Oh
then
yeah.
you come back, in your case it brought back the nostalgia factor for you seeing cards again. And here you are doing all sorts of big things. When it comes to like your focus on what you PC, or is it you mentioned Chicago like superstars? Is it Chicago centric kind of players or athletes, or not
So my
necessarily?
PC is kind of fluid. I'll be honest on that, and I mean that because I sold a lot of my collection to start Zion cases, because I wanted to fund this business that I had an idea around. So I did sell a lot of iconic cards, things like that. That nothing that was absolutely massive, but stuff that meant something to me. Whether it be some rookie cards from some old Cubs guys, Chicago Bulls stuff, which would be some more secondhand Michael Jordan stuff. Never owned an actual rookie yet, but maybe one day on that one, that would be pretty cool. But the PC always, ironically enough, we had a fantasy baseball team, and our fantasy baseball team was more around dynasty and getting some draft picks, things like that. So Bowman, was a very big interest for me right off the jump, and that's one. Chris Bryant was a huge guy in 2013-14 that I really wanted to grab. So I have a little bit of a lean towards the 2013 Bowman style card. I just loved the Chris Bryant card at that time, and then Judge has it as well, right? So it looks pretty cool from that perspective. But just yeah, it went from like prospects, some of the old guys that I found graded, had some fun holding on to them for a while, and then now. I grab things that I think are cool looking. I like, have some older cards like a Wayne Gretzky rookie that I liked. I just, thought that'd be cool to own a ring, Wayne Gretzky rookie. It's a 6, so it's not like something absolutely massive, but it's still a very cool card. PSA 6, by the way, on that. I'm sure everybody got the reference, but yeah, just in case.
Yeah, and we're PSA 6 brothers because you can't see it because my big body's blocking it, but behind me is a Gretzky PSA 6. So
that's awesome, dude. Hey, there we go.
We're in the same fraternity,
Heck
and
yeah.
that's a great grade on that card.
It is. Yep.
As you well know.
Yes.
So yeah, but go ahead.
But yeah, no, and then yeah, no, for sure. And then to get into like modern, I do like a lot of the modern cards. I think they look cool. I think there's a lot of cool things that are kind of coming out, and I can see why some of these the newer collectors like draw towards the modern a little bit and how they look, because they're making some really cool stuff. But I collect a guy that most people aren't probably going to know, but Io DeSumo is a basketball player from the Illini, Illinois basketball team, which is 20 minutes from where I grew up. So I'm a huge Illinois basketball fan. And so I, grabbed his cards and kind of PC'd him a little bit. And I actually seen this last year. He's starting to do well in his 3rd year. So started off really good his rookie season, but then ended up getting into his 2nd year, didn't do that well, did okay. But then his 3rd year, he's taking on a bigger role and whatnot. So that's fun to see some really cool cards of him, right? Really sought after cards that I bought for dirt cheap, and having him as an interesting PC item. Most people look at me when I go, "Hey, you got any Io DeSumo?" They're like, "I don't even know who that is." So
it sounds like, with all due respect, it almost sounds like he's something you need like an antibiotic for.
Right? Yeah. No, I've gotten some interesting responses in the years or the last.
And here's the thing. Because of the connection with Illinois, that's where you grew up, and it's fun to see, like you said, see a guy kind of start well, then a little bit of struggles, and then like now he's figuring the league out. Things are slowing down for him, and you're not collecting them because obviously you think he's a pretty good ball player, but you're not necessarily collecting them, you live in California, but you're collecting Aaron Judge. You're not a Yankee. That you have that connection, that local area, that regional connection, and now he's kind of stepping his game up. So I think that's always fun when that sort of stuff happens.
It is fun, yeah, for sure, 100%.
So let's talk about, you mentioned you get break in and then collecting. How did how did Zion, the birth of Zion, like what was it that caused you to form the company when you started? Obviously, you're in a different spot now, but when you first said, "I'm going to do this," kind of talk about that process.
Yeah, was 2016, 17. So I liked working with wood and doing some cool things with it, whether it was doing engraving or staining or painting something and adding some vinyls to it. I had all these different ideas. So I was in my breaking days, I would also do display wall displays, and I would do one-offs, and had some fun doing that. So I always had an idea of taking the cards kind of to the, where do they go from here? You get them, and then where do you put them? Do you display them? Do you put them in a shoe box like most of us do, or a white box, one of the white graded boxes, things like that. Some of the storage options weren't, I don't think, ideal for the fact that my collection started to accumulate, and I'm like, man, I got a lot of money sitting here, and I don't really know where to put it, and I don't really like it sitting in a shoe box. Don't really like it in the white cardboard boxes. So wheels started turning while I was, working at my previous employer, and did it, while I'm breaking on the side, in my spare time, I'm also thinking of some ideas of how storage can be done, for cards, graded card, non-graded, and came up with a toolbox toolbox idea, briefcase look. And my first iteration of this was not nice, by the way. Like, I got it. Yeah, I look back at it and see, and I go, "Oh gosh, that's almost hideous, basically." But
Well,
I
in your defense, even that, you know where I'm going with, even like the great companies like Microsoft and Apple, some of their
right,
early
yeah.
incarnations, they too would say, "What were we thinking?" or
What were
"Yikes!"
we?
And
Yeah,
look where they are now.
yeah.
So,
No, you got to start
I think
somewhere.
people understand that. Yeah.
Yep.
So
Yeah. No, for sure. And yeah, thank you to the industry for some grace here and there, because as you're building and developing a new item that's not ever been on in the industry for the most part, from a storage perspective, they've kind of seen, I think, the journey as well of what we've kind of came from to 7 years later, seeing where we're at, and seeing all the how much it's changed, from 1 to 2 SKUs when we first start, to three, ran 3 SKUs up until 2021. And then now we've got 100 and 180 SKUs. So there's a lot of different things that have obviously happened. And in that beginning time, a lot of feedback, a lot of, I like to ask a lot of questions. And, when I sold some things in the beginning, I always ask, hey, is there something if you could change something, what would it be? Stuff like that. Just because getting insight, from other collectors and what they collected would help design like the next version of some of these things. So made some edits, made some, different color changes, things like that. And that's kind of been for the better. And, we've grown quite a bit over the last 7 years, adding all of these different products and elements and colors and styles. And it's been a fun ride.
it's nice to hear you say that too, Clint. Like, those collectors and people in the hobby, you're asking for their opinion because that's going to be your consumer base. What it tells me is you care about those
100%.
folks, right?
Yeah.
Like, sure, you're a collector too, and you can design stuff. Oh, I like this, or this would bother me, so I'm not doing that. But you also, besides your own opinion, which is important, you took that feedback that you got from fellow collectors and people in the hobby and utilize that. That just, I think it says a little bit, or it says a lot about, what kind of person you are, because that's important. A lot of times you hear stories where that isn't the case. Let's put it that way.
Yep.
And the consumer base can suffer from that. And
Yeah.
so that's really cool. When you first started, I'm assuming, you can correct me if I'm wrong, you kind of kept your job initially, right? You
Mhm.
didn't like go full time
Yeah.
right
No,
away.
I honestly assumed it was going to be a side hustle for the rest of my life. I didn't assume that it would be a
No,
situation.
yeah,
I'm pretty content, with my life. I'm a content person. I don't need a lot of things. So, like, for me, it was it's welcomed, but I wasn't expecting it, and I wasn't expecting it to do what it's done, especially over the last three years. Um, you know, Really, I mean, kind of like what you just said, it was more to the how can I create a solution and something that is, I think, needed in the industry. Because going to shows, for an example, we started going to shows in 2014, 15. When I get a random discussion with somebody, and they're like, hey, you gonna go to the Chicago show? And I'm like, shows are going on now. Like, I remember as a kid going to a few local shows, but like I'd never experienced a big show in Chicago as a kid. So going there, meeting up with a few people that I'd met online, in Facebook and Instagram, that was fun to put faces to people that I'd seen on there, meet them. I'm sure everybody in this industry loves that aspect, is, all these people that we've done deals and traded thousands of dollars of either, sports cards with, or sent thousands of dollars to, or received. You don't even know who they are for the most part sometimes. So until you see them in person, it's fun to kind of put names with faces. But I remember going to that show and going, man, we're throwing cardboard boxes and shoe boxes in a book bag, and we're walking around with a few $1,000s in our backpack. Just didn't make sense to me, as far as that aspect. So no, it's just it's such an interesting way that it's basically kind of came, from nothing to actually something that's almost needed now in the industry. From coming back from the national, John, you came up to the booth. We got 20, 30 people at the booth at dang near all times, and it's part of
Yeah.
the experience now. They want to come and they want to get their Zion case, they want to get it filled and stuff like that. So
Yeah, well, it's like I said in the intro. Like how crazy is that? Like your company's become a verb, right? And like people just say Zion. They don't have to even say case. It just
yeah,
whether you're listening to a podcast or like even let's be real. I'm sure you agree with even if it's not a Zion case, it's just called the Zion.
it
Like
is.
it's
No, it is.
it,
Yep, it
like
is
to me
literally.
that's it's funny, it's awesome, it's crazy all at the same time. Like listen, you're probably you're the number one I think case manufacturer for a reason because of the quality and the different options and call. I can go on. I don't want to sound like an infomercial,
Yeah,
but because of that, your company's become a verb literally for every case,
yeah.
regardless of whether it's yours or not yours. I mean, does that you ever really think about that and hit you like holy crap?
Oh yeah,
Like
no,
think
I'm
about where you started from
Oh,
and
it's unreal.
that.
Yeah, no, I mean, a lot of guys start in their garage, right? And literally my garage was my warehouse for the first, 2 years. And didn't have my car in there, and just loaded the garage up. And my wife was, a little upset because it don't make no sense to her while the garage is just sitting there full. And I'm like, listen, this is what we're doing. All right. So you got to bear with me. You married into this. It is what it is. She knew what she was getting into. So, but yeah, no, we've a lot of references over the last few years about, like Kleenex and you're the Kleenex of the tissue, industry now and stuff like that. So, and it is true. I mean, we got guys that come up to the shows now and they'll have a case and they'll be like, hey, I locked myself out of this or something. And I'm like, well, this isn't even mine. And they're like, oh, this isn't your case. I'm like, no, you bought your case somewhere else clearly. And, but we'll even help them out even too, because that we're a
Yeah,
part of the industry too. So it's like,
yeah,
we can be adaptable and go from there. But it is funny because they come up and they're like, oh yeah, I got a Zion case. And then they'll lift it up and it's not a Zion case. And it's like, oh yeah, it doesn't happen very often, but it does happen,
yeah.
occasionally, throughout the years of doing it. We've had maybe a handful of them, but it is funny that you say it like that because that's exactly how it is.
No, listen, I've been in the hobby 45 years and it's I mean I know there are other manufacturers, but you're the big dog on the block. You
Yeah.
put in the work. I'm not, it's not
Oh
like you
yeah.
just someone crowned you that. You did it with blood, sweat, and tears and all that stuff. Like you said, we're starting out in your garage and not knowing, for sure. You obviously have a goal, but nothing's guaranteed,
Yeah.
right? And here you are, and you're big like it's just it's a great story, but it's a great story because it's a great case, right? I mean,
Thanks.
they're
Yeah.
not mutually exclusive. They one doesn't happen with the other not being true. So it's just, but I thought about that the other day. Like it's like his company's a verb. Like you know what I mean? It's like every case is a Zion, whether it is or it isn't. It's because they're the best at what they do.
No, I appreciate that very much. Yes. And it is 100%, quality is we try to be the best we can when it comes to that. We try to be as innovative and goal oriented as far as like what the collector is wanting to collect and how they want to do it as possible, from a functionality perspective. So yeah, there's we will, we'll keep innovating and we'll keep growing. And, as a collector, like we said, it's very easy for me uh, to adapt and see like, hey, what are we trying to collect here? What are we trying to do here? And understand the nuance of maybe another collector that's like, hey, I need XYZ. Because we get it all the time at shows, especially they want to, hey, you need to get a case that just has 4 SGC cards and I need a ball on this one side. And it's like, yeah, look, I mean, that's not probably going to happen because I don't know the collector that needs just that alone. But hey, if you need help,
People
like,
don't really like while you do care about like what
yeah,
people and collectors want, right? People also realize it costs money to produce these things. And while you'd love to make like individual, like you have to make it like that costs money to
yeah,
make the product. If like four people buy it, because the like
yeah,
that,
that's
that's
a
not
lot.
a winning
That's
proposition.
not a winning product. Yeah. So
Yeah,
so although we do have opportunities and I will do one-offs occasionally, but I tell people a
yeah,
lot when it comes to a one-off, it's not cheap because it's not cheap for me to get it made. So that's an unfortunate kind of situation, but it is what it is. If you're wanting what you want, it may cost a little bit more compared to, something that we can create like we have where we've got hundreds and thousands of units of certain things. So
yeah, no doubt. Going back to when you kind of launched the company, obviously, like you were still employed, but it's still a nervous time, right? Because you got to put money in your startup of your company, and there's no guarantee. How nerve wracking was that? Thinking back to when you first launched, and with no guarantee of success. Obviously, now it's a different story, but thinking back even when you first the company was started.
very scared. Yeah, I've never done that before in my life. So I know that my wife was scared for us as well. So it one of the good things that I did have was the fact that I'd actually built a little bit of a breaking business up as well during the time frame. So like I explained to my wife, and she, understood after I had to break it down a little bit to her, is that we're gonna be okay. We got a little bit of income coming in. Like I can run the business, and my breaks weren't like, gosh, the braking industry is interesting now just from a pricing perspective. But back then, a lot of guys don't know that I get a case of Bowman for $650 or 625. Or remember one time
Yeah,
it was
that's a box
yeah,
now.
it's a box now. Yeah. So at the end of the day, like, I look it back and I say, okay, I had 52 cases of 2017, Bowman baseball. Maybe I should have kept about 10 of those because they were only 600 something dollars a piece to me. But in that time frame, you're looking at today and tomorrow and in the next week, and you're going to push through that product because we need to make a little money so that we can pay our bills and live life and everything else. Um, but yeah, I think that was, one of the things too, is my wife knows that, I'll grind too. So like if I got to get out there and do some odds and ends here and there, and I actually, um, when I left my company, I was kind of self-employed for about 6 months or so, and then got offered an opportunity also to work about 2-3 days a week and make some pretty good money. But they were some hard 2 days a week, 2 and 3 days a week, but it helped supplement a little bit during the early times in like 2000, 18, 19. And then, again, I'll always grind to make sure that we're good to go. So, and not at the detriment of the business, because one of the goals, and this is what I think scared my wife so much, is that I told her we're not making money off of Zion cases. It'll just be reinvested. So like I didn't go spend a bunch of money and then just try to take all the profits and go live anywhere. Like I literally just kind of snowballed it into next orders, next, ideas, a lot of engineer work, design work, things like that, to try to see what the next options were, what we could do design wise. The development of Mac Pro, things like that, that took 9 months to develop. And I developed that myself just by seeing what I thought would help the one touch, which I know the one touch or the magnetic card or magnetic case is a staple in our industry, and not in any way was I meaning to redefine it or anything like that, but I just seen a need for an opportunity for a little quality in a magnetic holder and some other little factors into it that I think can help the collector have a case that actually stands up a little longer, doesn't scratch as often, has some functionality to it that's a little different than what we're used to. So there's all types of ways that I probably could have taken that money that I made or have made with Zion, and I probably wouldn't be here today, to be honest with you, John, because I didn't reinvest into the company at that time. But that was kind of the idea, and I told my wife, "We'll be fine. I'll get through it. Right? We'll find ways to make it work and whatnot." And now we're, like you said, the last 2 years it's been a little different because we grind still. Don't get me wrong. We go to 60 shows a year, and we're out in the industry, and we have a couple other businesses in the industry that we handle shows, whether it's rental cases, things like that. So we've got a lot of irons in the fire. But yeah, it's 5 years ago. I didn't see that at all, for sure. That wasn't even on the Richter scale.
Yeah, one thing I want to speak to too, you mentioned grinding. Like, I think the number, there's various reasons different businesses or companies don't make it. But I think number one on that list, Clint, is people get into and don't want to put in the work, or it's too
Yeah.
much and it just overwhelms them, right? And I'm sure you have days or moments too like that.
Oh yeah.
But like you said, you put in the work, it's got to be done, you're going to do it, and that's leads into your success. Where I think others, get in there and then it's like I just said, it's a little bit much, and unfortunately, not that I want people to fail, but that's sometimes comes with the territory. And you're one of the big, like, you're talking about shows and the show, you're all over the country. You're at the time of this release, you're probably behind the Zion table at Fanatics Fest, the first incarnation of that. So we'll
Yep.
have to talk to you. I'm going to try to get there for a day. I don't know if I'm going to. It's actually in my hometown. I'm a New York City kid, live
Yeah.
in Syracuse. I got to try to see if I can get there. I'm efforting. I don't want to promise, but we'll see. But because of the brand and what you represent and the importance, you almost, you have to be at these shows. You know what I mean? In there, and that's a good thing, but it's also work, right?
Yeah.
And so to keep that, that stranglehold on the number one spot, if you will, you have to put in this work and the grind and
Yeah.
to reap the rewards. And I think a lot of times people think it's easy, right? You just one night you just mock up something on in a sketchbook or a legal pad, and it's so much more to it than that. I'm sure even you, like, even though you're a smart guy, you learn. You said I've learned stuff along the way in this 5, 6, 7 years
Yes.
to get to where you are, and I think again that's a testament to you. I know even just you mentioned that the recent national in Cleveland. I got to come in earlier with the media pass, and I know I was sitting at the mascot booth. Ezra's a friend of mine, so me and Danny Black were sitting there and
Yeah.
watching your team just come in with rollers of
Oh yeah.
cases and
Yep.
in the work that goes involved, and that's just bringing stuff in. It's not the design element too.
Yeah.
That's a
No.
whole
Yeah.
nother. That's a whole nother show.
Yeah, no, it is,
So
and it is. I talk to a lot of guys in the industry, whether it's cards or a business or a product or something that they're interested in doing. Um, it's not for everybody. Like you mentioned back there. I mean, at the end of the day, some guys fail, and I don't even know that it's really failure. I think it's just maybe you get in, and maybe it's just not for you, right? I don't know that it's a failure, but I know that if you really want it, you can go get it for sure. And it may take some time. You may not see the fruits of that labor initially, but I think that for an example, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, if you probably ever went in and asked about us in a show, they'd be like, "Oh yeah, I think they're over there," or something like that. But now I think, you'll know because we go to every show. They know who I am. They know who my team is. We've got relationships built. It's very hard to get rid of us in this industry now because of what we built over just the last 3.5, 4 years, really, as far as like, especially in the community. But to kind of go to that, even as kind of a funny story, shows are something that we love to be involved in. We love to go to as many shows as we can. Obviously, we're human, so we can't make everything, and that does hurt. I want to be everywhere if I can. And sometimes we can't make a show. That doesn't feel great for us, but it is part of life. And so, we do have programs in place that can help that if there are some shows listening and they want us involved. We do have some options that doesn't necessarily bring us there, but we can bring the activation of what Zion brings, and you guys can make some money doing it, and have at least some opportunities there. But my first 3 shows that I set up at, I didn't sell a case, John. I didn't sell one.
Wow.
Literally,
That's,
literally got actually made fun of and scoffed at quite a bit too. So
well, he who laughs last
yeah, exactly.
laughs last. I
Yeah,
can't say he who laughs last wins. So
yeah. There you go. Yeah,
they can
and I
have the first one,
yeah.
but
And I had a positive outlook. I always just said, "Hey, look, man, it may not be for you, right?" And I tell that to people, and to this day, if they come up to the show and well, this doesn't work for me, da da da, and it's like, hey, man, it may not, and I'm sorry, we'll see what we can figure out, see where we go from here. But in the beginning, I had multiple people come over, and and that's unfortunate. I always try to be as positive as I can in the industry. I usually um unless I feel like it's worth the time, or if I have the place to do it, I don't usually be too negative on anything, because it's like, yeah, I don't really know that's my place at all. But the fact that people have that open ability to just be like, yeah, this is dumb, or whatever, that I don't know, that's more of a testament, I think, to them than anything. But to know that we were scoffed at and told it ain't gonna work, it was just funny to see that it did not come to fruition for them, at least.
it's a little bulletin board
Yeah, for
material,
sure.
if you
Yeah,
will. I've always said too, Clint, like stuff like that come, like you said, it's more an indictment on the source. Someone's unhappy and they
yeah,
just project that unhappy, try
for
to
sure.
make other people unhappy, and that sort of thing. And then the other side of that coin is, when now that you are successful, right? Everyone wants to take a shot at the king and
Oh
chip
yeah.
away, or try to chip away at that armor. So
Well,
whether it's beginning or when you're at the top of
oh,
the mountain, it's both ends of the spectrum there.
and you literally, Hunter, you hit the nail on the head on the other end, because now what we face is just kind of like we said a minute ago. We have it's easy to knock us off because we've created the baseline. So when you go and go, oh, that I really like that case, and we do have some knockoffs out there. We got some Amazon guys and things like that. It's easy for them to just take a picture of our product or buy it and just send it over somewhere, wherever that manufacturer is, or in the US or whatever, and just say, hey, I want something like this, and it's like, yeah, that took me a long time to develop, and all you had to do was just take a picture of it and say, this is what I want. So that is while I'll probably tirelessly work to innovate and make sure we're always on the cutting edge, adding what I think are valuable and functional options to the collecting opportunity, with cases and some other things that we're going to get into in these next few years that we've got plans to, that I think will always put us on the front end. And with our licensing, opportunities and things like that we have also, we'll be releasing one here soon that is getting finalized with another licensing agreement, that on top of our MLB licensing that we have, that's only going to solidify us even more and put us in a way bigger driver's seat, opportunity moving forward. So it'll be big too. So when we get that, we'll have to try to figure out something to get you an idea of what that is, because it's a pretty
Yeah,
monster one.
yeah. That's called a tease, but
Yeah.
it's coming. As you said, it's coming down the turnpike.
Yes,
It'll
sir.
be announced when it's time to be announced, and that's great with the licensing, right? That's huge. You know that.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
preaching to the choir here. I mean, everyone can rep their favorite Major League Baseball team and that sort of thing,
yeah,
and that just brings another element. And if someone, you mentioned copycats, and unfortunately, that's not just in the case or the
yeah,
backpack industry. That it's anything. If anyone can take the shortcut way to try to capitalize on someone else's efforts and work, people
it's
are going to try
easy.
to do it. But I think the licensing, not that you can't do that too, but now you're going into where there can be repercussions for
Yeah,
doing more repercussions. Let me put it that
yeah,
way, and that sets you apart from those copycat folks. More, not that that's the only thing, but even more so, that separates
yeah,
you from that, and that's good. And that's again, that's you efforting and grinding to how do we do this better and continue. And you've added products, right?
yeah,
The backpacks, and which are becoming synonymous at any country. I don't care what state or what part of the country or out of the country in other countries even. We forget the hobby is a
it
worldwide
is. No,
uh,
yeah,
phenomenon. So Zion is just not a United States thing; it's a worldwide hobby thing. And even seeing you in Cleveland, looking at what you had on, you got a safe now, like all different different size backpacks, obviously different size cases. Just and like you said, there's more coming. It's not like all right, we're done. This is all we can do. You're always thinking outside the box. And I think
yeah,
again, that's what separates you from maybe the rest of the pack. And I will say this, the last few years and the shows I've been at, there's been a lot less other companies setting up. And I
yeah,
think, not that I don't root against people. That's not what I mean by this. But I think that just the testament to the quality and everything. Well, affordability, the quality, and the offerings that you have. It's like I'm not going to be able to go in there and battle in the ring. So
yeah.
it becomes a business decision. So
It is
again,
tough. Yeah,
more of a testament to you.
yeah. No,
So
I appreciate.
those folks that laughed early
Yeah.
on, man, I don't know if they're listening or where they're,
Hey, how about this? I had one. I knew him because I'd been at the shows, and he actually when I first set up, he didn't know I was doing this. He was actually one that came up, kind of scoffed, said something. He just didn't see it was going to be anything. And it was probably 3 or 4 years later. I seen him at the same show, and I was set up again, and he came up and uh, he's like, "Aren't you glad I gave you this idea?" And I was like, "What?" I'm like, he just took me so off guard. I was like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "You were literally the one of the ones that was like scoffing at me the whole time." He's like, "No, I wasn't." He's like, "I was telling you this was such a great idea." And I'm thinking, "Okay, whatever. I'm not even going to get into it with you." But yeah, it is literally that. Yeah, there is. I'm sure to each their own. People are going to like what they like, but yes, the ones that probably said some things in the beginning, I'm sure didn't know that we would be 140,000 cases in, at this point, and going, wow, okay, never mind. Maybe this is part of, what it is to actually collect. Because, as you know, John, the collecting has boomed, and everybody uses the word boom, but it's just the cards are so much now, and products so much. And so, our little boxes of cardboard and things like that were fine of what they were 10 years ago, but it's just not that anymore. And even to that testament, when you talk about the new products and things like that, we got the safes, and partnered with a company called Card Vault there. I vetted and talked with them, and we think it's a good product, and they got a good vision and what they're going to bring out with some other opportunities. And then adding the luggage line we just brought out during right before the national, which I think is going to be massive, just for the shows, right? I mean, now you can bring luggage instead of a case and walking around, and it's got wheels, everything. And then adding Slab Museum, which was another business that has some cool products. And it's basically this kind of showpiece that you can have on your desk, or in a closet. That's
I'm looking at one
There you go.
as
Yeah,
we're
you got
talking.
well, yeah. And it's just
So
it's basically what we used to have, which would be a cardboard 2-slotted box or a 1 slot. But now it just looks good, and it's got an opportunity to be a showpiece and discussion piece when you got, friends and family over or something like that, or something like that. And it's cool. It's a cool piece to have as a storage versus the briefcase option that briefcase options that we have. It's just, yeah, all these other little segments. Acrylic looks nice when it's really clean and clear, and it's got a good a good design to it. And I think the Slab Museum and some of the other options and opportunities they're going to bring down the road also, I think, are just going to solidify our business in the acrylic side of things as well for the industries.
Yeah, no doubt. That's the one thing too that sets Zion apart and your company, Clint, is you will take some of these other ideas or companies or products that other people have designed and take them on your wing. Say, hey, I like this product. Like I
Yeah.
can help you, right? You're willing to do that. Where I think someone else maybe in your position maybe would be less willing or
Yeah.
stubborn or like, hey, I didn't do that. I didn't design this, so you're on your own. I
Or
think
just go
it's
knock them
again,
off, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
nah, I'll just go do it
Like
myself.
what
Like,
happens,
that's, yeah,
what happens to you, right?
exactly. Yeah.
So I think it's a testament to your work ethic and knowledge and expertise and just business acumen in general, right? That hey, this is I would use this
Yeah.
whether I designed it or not. And now that I've built this company up, that I can expose it to more people. That's what I can
Yep.
do,
For sure.
and I think that's really cool that you're like that and able to do that. Where I think others may not be able to cross that threshold where you can, and it just gives people more choices, right? I mean,
Yeah.
like I said, I was at your table from a rolling suitcase, a safe, multi-size backpacks, cases. There's other stuff coming, as you mentioned. Like you don't rest on your laurels,
Yeah.
and it's just I think that again that's speaks volumes. And because you're like that's like what's next, right? It's almost like watching a TV show, and
Yeah.
it's like the cliffhanger. You got to tune in next week to see what happens, right?
Well,
It's like
I
you know,
definitely, one of the things I like to do is not get too cart before the horse, because I do have a lot of shelved ideas. And even to the extent of, there's some items that have came out that I was working on or had some ideas around that I just, ended up shelving and not really even messing around with, because it was already being done by somebody else. And what's the point of me going in and, essentially disrupting that piece? Unless I felt like maybe there's an opportunity to make something really better and it's a lot different than their product. There's no need to go out and just knock somebody else's stuff off and see where it goes. But we've got some cool stuff coming, and there is no doubt that we'll be adding new products that aren't on the on the industry's trail right now. We're introducing, for an example, to kind of highlight the Mag Pro a little bit. The Mag Pro has been a massive hit, I believe. We've sold about 270,000 units in the last 9 months. So it's been I think, a big hit. It's going to be featured in Topps luminaries this year. So like we're actually working with Fanatics and Topps and creating that experience to make it a little bit more of just your typical. And John, this, you see some of these products, dynasties and luminaries and things like that, and it comes in a one touch with a nice little sticker over the top. And I'm not knocking that at all. We've all collected it, and I think it's cool, and it's got its own little kind of place in the industry. But pitching that idea to the Topps team and the Fanatics team and saying, hey, look, here's some mock-ups. This is some ideas, and I use some of the in-case products that they've done, where it comes with one card, like the dynasties and things in the luminaries, and said, hey, look, this is what it could look like presentation wise. And is this an interest that you think you would like to add to some of the products in your fold, for the community, for the industry to have a different look than just the one touch or the magnetic holder with a sticker on it. So it'll literally have a luminaries label at the top here. Luminaries card, nice little seal over it, and it's going to come ready to go. Like you basically just got it in a one touch or whatever, but it'll be in the new Mag Pro with some cool activations on the back end and a cool design on the front label as well. So I think the Mag Pro, we've got about 12 other SKUs coming on that are going to be some interesting flavors to add, I think, to that type of a product. That's only going to make the collecting experience funner, better, brandability. A lot of our breakers use that because it just, they can put their own custom label at the top, which we can help at because we've got our own custom label team as well. Or you can do it in-house. We're open to whatever you want to do it with, but I think that Mag Pro opportunity is going to be a big one down the line for us, and what it can do to help brand some of these other businesses that may not have a product that they can just throw a label in there, and do anything with that makes it look good and present the card.
Yeah, it's a great point too by you, Clint. It's like the hobby's evolving. Like that might have been great 3 or 4 years ago, but we can do it better now. We have
Yeah.
different technologies, different plastics, different machinery,
Yep.
whatever the case. We have stuff gets better generally
Yes.
speaking. So
Yep.
so why not do it better? Like you said, you went to Tops and said, hey, we can do this. It's going to be a win-win for us, for you, and the collector who gets that card
Yeah.
in that Mag Pro. That's like that. Instead of, like you said, nothing wrong with the sticker, but that was then, right? And
Yep.
and times change. The hobby evolves just like everything up. Probably maybe even at a faster rate than some other stuff.
For
Even.
sure.
So,
Yeah.
so
Especially right
why?
now. Yeah. Our boom that we've
Yeah,
had over the last 4 years. I
yeah.
mean, you got new stuff
So
and ideas. I mean,
yeah.
we've created monsters out here in a good way. We got a lot of guys out here just doing their thing, and a lot of innovative ideas and strategies that I don't think people see. I think so. We've got a lot of value in our industry from just the wisdom of being able to go through some of this stuff and learn it and fine tune it and figure out what their niche is and how they want to do some things, in this industry. It's been fun to watch for sure.
So I got to ask you. Obviously, like we talk about, you're grinding. You're at the shows. You're at most of them. Do you get much of a chance, like as a collector, even to walk around to the show, maybe pick up a few things? Like talk about, is it hard with running Zion, and being a collector to maybe get away from the table and like, hey, guys, I'm gonna give me an hour. I gotta check out
Yeah.
some stuff. But I'll be. Is it difficult
Yeah,
or not?
it
Or am
is.
I make? Yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah. No, if I say, hey, give me an hour, I walk away for 5 minutes and they're texting, hey, we need you back at the book. So no, I will say on my team does very well. And to be honest, they've, again, I preach, and a lot of guys that we work with and girls that we work with, is adaptability and making sure finding solutions, things like that. So we pride ourselves on that. My team is actually really good. If I need to take a step away, I can 100% do that. Now, as the business owner, a lot of times I don't like to do that because there are opportunities, and for us, like when we run shows simultaneously on a weekend, like the Fanatics Fest, weekend, we've got two other shows that we're actually going to be present at as well. And sometimes I get a little blowback from some of the other shows that I'm not there. But like I try to explain to them, I try to do my best to essentially make the rounds that I can, but I can't be everybody everywhere one place. I got to kind of pick where I'm going, what's probably the most value of where I need to be, and not to diminish anything anybody else's show's doing because everybody's doing some really cool things and awesome stuff. But sometimes it might also be that we've had them in the fold for a lot longer too, and things like that, and have some relationships there, but generally, if I want to get away, I can get away and do some, looking. Problem is, John, is nobody has IO to Sumu cards. So I go look and I get told no a lot. So
There you go. You got to clone yourself so you can be at three
yeah,
shows
I've
at
had
what
some
the
people and I got people, they'll even message me and they'll say, hey, why ain't you at this show? You can't take days off. And I'm like, I ain't. I'm at another show. Like, I'm not taking a day off. So,
You
you
know,
know,
you tell them like, there's more than one show at
yeah,
one time
exactly.
in the
Our industry
in the United
is
States.
yeah, is a lot bigger now. There's
And
more than
there's more every month. There's more shows.
exactly.
I've
Yeah.
said this on this podcast, Clint. There's shows now in cities that have never had them
Oh yeah.
before.
Yeah.
Whether they're a small 40 table, 30 table
Yeah.
in some smaller town, they're getting them. And
Yeah.
this is,
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, shows are where cities or towns have never had them before. They're
Yeah. No.
starting to pop up in those. So, like you said, it's hard to, it's impossible to be in more than one
Yeah.
place.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not hard. It's impossible.
It is literally
Especially like you have to work on the Zion cloning machine.
well,
Once
and see,
that,
that's why. So what we do in a lot of yeah, there is there. Well, I heard cloning's happening. So I guess if you got conspiracy theorists, out here, supposedly you got clones of certain people out there in the world, but who knows? Maybe we'll be old enough to see that happen. I may be retired at that point, but it'll be pointless. But there's no
or
doubt
just get a couple guys. We all have like doppelgangers.
yeah,
Just get a couple guys that look like
look like
you.
me and just
Yeah, and just send them to whatever show
put a
they
Zion
need to
hat,
be.
put it low, and
Yeah.
put him in the back. Yeah. Oh yeah, Clint's here. He's in the back.
Just tell them,
yeah,
everything you need to know, or maybe questions they get asked, and there's problem solved.
exactly. Well, one of the things we try to do, John, though, too, to speak to them the show piece, because it is really a hot topic for us. We get inquiries, every week, multiple of, hey, can you come to our show? Hey, can you help with this event? Hey, this is going on. And we want to try to do the best we can in any way to accommodate and be involved in trade nights, cool stuff that's going on, giveaways, things like that. And it is hard, again, like you said, I can't be at one, two places at the same time, so that's tough. But we do, again, offer some opportunities where we can essentially help facilitate some stuff at your show where you could have a little Zion set up and essentially make a little money selling the cases, and get that experience at least for your show by having a few things out there. And we work with you in those regards as well. So that is an opportunity. We always want to bring that experience. We know what it is in live, time. You get the family, you get the kid, you get the guy that doesn't know what it is. There's all different types of collectors, and when they're coming up and they're trying to figure out what this is, or they already know and they need a Zion case, we want to make sure in all shows that opportunity is afforded them. Whether it's us doing it or somebody else that wants to kind of help take a little bit of the reins and do that as well. So
yeah, no doubt. And it's nice to hear you say, hey, like, we might not be able to be there physically, but that doesn't mean Zion can't have a presence
yeah,
there in some way, shape, or form. Again,
yeah,
thinking outside of that box, right? It's easy just to say, sorry, I'm not going to be at your show,
yep,
and end the story. It doesn't have to be this cut and dry as
exactly.
that. I got to ask you this one last question. I know we're up against the time here. The Zion name, where does that come from? How did
Yeah,
you name the
so
company?
I'm a religious person. I got some faith, and so Zion is Mount Zion, which in the context of old scriptures is basically the top, the pinnacle. So it's essentially the city on the hill. So it's a little bit of an analogy in a word, or of some sort of a reference to being at the top, is basically the idea around that, and also kind of giving all essentially the thanks and everything that we do as a business to my faith and what we do there to God. To be honest with you, that's the kind of the source from what we do a lot of things. So that's the reason that is called Zion Cases. A lot of people think it's Zion Williamson. It is not. Just a heads up. We have had that said multiple times. People come up, great marketing strategy, and I'm like, oh yeah, thanks. I'm thinking, maybe they're talking about our
I don't
marketing.
know.
It's
I
like,
don't know if that's a great.
yeah, I
Worth
know. Oh,
one,
trust
but I
me,
don't
we've
know if
had
it's
that
a great.
yeah. I'm like, wait, I hope people don't think we're associated with this guy, in some way, and But yeah, it is not Zion Williamson. It is 100% our own actual reference of Zion as the Mount Zion city on a hill aspect. So
That's what I thought. I didn't want to assume, so
yeah,
I asked. And here's the nice thing. When you name it that, right? There's no guarantees of where. But I think you lived up. A few years
yeah,
later, I think you're living up to the name, and it makes even more sense now than ever before. And
for sure, man. I
you
appreciate
kind of
that.
saw what it was going to be, and
Yeah.
you lived up to it, and to me beyond even. So
No, I agree
you
with you,
know,
John. I'm in the same boat as the owner. I feel the same way. I
yeah,
I couldn't ever believe that we would be here for real.
yeah, and
So
and but again, it's everything we spoke about, right? The
yeah,
the hard work, the thinking outside the box, the grinding,
yeah,
the open to new ideas. So many people are not. They're just kind of rigid and stubborn, and it,
yeah.
it it can cost you, right? And
It
I'm not
can.
even talking just financially, just in general. And but you're kind of different, and it's made you successful, and it's made Zion, the brand, a verb again. It's become a verb. People don't even have to say case no more. They just say,
Yeah,
I
exactly.
put it
Yeah,
in my Zion, right?
yeah,
People like you say anything else, and like, what is that?
yeah.
People don't
Right.
have people know. It's like just a given and a known. And again, kudos to
Yeah.
you and your team and everyone involved. And
Well, I appreciate that for real.
so
It's yeah.
yeah,
I'll
go
go
ahead.
ahead, John. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate. I know you're busy.
Oh
You
yeah.
didn't. You made some time for us. We'll have you back as well. Anytime you want to announce something new, you're more than welcome. But for those listening, I think most people probably know. But for those that don't, point them in the right direction where they can see, where they can order and buy the products that you offer. Maybe see your show schedule so they can see if you're how close that you are to maybe an area there, and point them in those right directions.
Yeah, for sure. Online zioncases.com, real easy on that one. We got socials up on every account. Their accounts up on every social, and then if we're not in the stores near you, let them know. I mean, I'm sure we can get it in there. We've got a wholesale program, but we are in about 650 stores in the U.S. currently. So that you can always find something or something through them if you ever need that outlet. And then obviously the shows. We're at 60 something shows this year. We do pretty much every major sports show that's in the industry, and a lot of the TCG shows as well. So we're pretty well versed, and we're pretty saturated along all those show aspects. And most of the times at the shows, just a heads up, if you're ever looking for a case and you know we're going to be there, we run 20% off at every show as a promo price. So you can get a little discount also by just meeting us at a show and going from there. So
Save on shipping. You get it
yeah,
right in hand. I mean,
done deal.
yeah, it's like buying a card in person rather than off of
Exactly.
eBay, right? So
Yeah.
it's the same difference. So
Yep.
there you go. For those scoring at home, right? 60 shows a year. There's 52 weeks in a year. So
Yeah.
do
Right.
a little
Do
do
a
a
little.
little math there. Like
Yep.
you're doing, like you said, you're doing multiple shows at the same time. And
Yes,
again,
sir.
a testament to the grind. So
Appreciate it,
uh,
John.
Clint, uh, keep up what you're doing. It's exciting to see what's around the next corner, and thanks for coming on. We'd love to have you back again. So,
I appreciate it again, John. Appreciate the time as always.
all right, get some rest. Get some rest in between in
I'm going
between
to
the.
pick up Corey from Show Your Slabs at the airport. We got some work to do tonight till like 3 a.m. So we ain't getting no rest over here.
No rest for the weary,
Yeah,
as they
exactly.
say.
Yep.
So, all right,
All
Clint.
right, buddy.
Thank you.
Thanks,
All
John.
right, take care.
We'll see you.